Oh, this is so exasperating. Today was the day federal prosecutors told a judge how much cooperation they received from a man named Sam Patten. Sam Patten is a political consultant, a one-time business associate of Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort. They both worked for the same pro-Russian political party in Ukraine. Sam Patten pled guilty last summer to failing to register as a foreign lobbyist in the United States. He also admitted in charging documents to illegally funneling a $50,000 foreign donation into Trump's inaugural. He used an American as a fake stand-in for a Ukrainian guy who was actually giving the 50 grand. Sam Patten also admitted to lying to the Senate Intelligence Committee about all of that. Well, today was the day for prosecutors to tell the judge in his case what kind of sentence Sam Patten should get, given his crimes and how helpful he was as a cooperating witness after he pled guilty. So the sentencing of Sam Patten, even though it's been a low-profile case, it's been an interesting prospect that we would learn exactly how helpful he had been to prosecutors and with what kind of information. It's been particularly interesting because of his connection to illegal activity around the Trump inaugural. I mean, since Sam Patten pled last summer, we have since learned that the Trump inaugural has come under investigation by federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, also federal prosecutors in the Eastern District of New York, also federal prosecutors in Southern California, also the Attorney General in New Jersey, also the Attorney General in D.C., and that's not even counting the congressional investigations. They're all investigating the inaugural. For what? Well, now that Sam Patten is due to be sentenced this week, in part because of him admitting facilitating illegal foreign donations into the inaugural, it has been an interesting prospect that we'd finally learn a little bit more about how his case fits into the overall investigative interest in the president's inauguration. What exactly was he providing testimony about? No idea, it turns out. Prosecutors told the judge today that Sam Patten committed serious crimes, but also that he's been very good ever since. They said he should get significant credit for his substantial assistance to prosecutors. That's them asking the judge to go easy on him. The closest prosecutors got to explaining what Sam Patten helped them with since he's been a cooperating witness were these two lines. First, they said Sam Patten served as a valuable resource for the government in a number of other criminal investigations, providing helpful information about additional individuals and entities. Ooh, individuals and entities, both kinds, right? Not helpful in terms of description. But then they also said this. Quote, in total, Patten has met with government investigators in person or by phone a total of 9 separate times to answer numerous questions and explain various documents. In all of these sessions, Patten has been honest and straightforward with government investigators. The government will also file an addendum to this memorandum in aid of sentencing, where the government more fully describes the nature of Patten's cooperation and assistance to the government. Oh, tell me more. Luckily, there's a footnote. Here's the footnote. Quote, because the addendum includes sensitive information about other investigations and persons who have not been and may not be charged with a crime, the government is seeking permission from the court to file the addendum under seal. Gah! So, yes, this guy has definitely helped us. Yes, prosecutors want a downward departure in sentencing from the judge. He's been great. He's helped them with tons of other criminal cases. It's all very sensitive. What are those other sensitive and ongoing criminal matters? That's sealed. And you know, this keeps happening. We're more than 2 weeks out now from the Mueller investigation ostensibly being over. But prosecutors in cases spawned by that investigation continue to refer to other investigations, to ongoing investigations. The grand jury, quote, continuing robustly, including some of the prosecutors who took over Mueller's work. But in thinking about what other investigations could still be at play here, it is worth noting how many parts of the special counsel's investigation just this guy Sam Patten touched. I mean, he is linked to the investigations of Trump's inaugural through the foreign money he funneled into that event illegally. In addition to the inaugural connection, though, Sam Patten also previously worked at Cambridge Analytica, the Trump campaign data firm, which has since gone out of business in a huge cloud of scandal in the UK. Believe it or not, Sam Patten was also in business with Konstantin Kilimnik, who's the Manafort associate prosecutors say has active ties to Russian intelligence. Kilimnik was also indicted by Robert Mueller. So he's tied to all of this stuff. Sam Patten will be sentenced on Friday. The prosecutors say they want something nice and light. But when it comes to explaining why exactly they want something nice and light, because all the good stuff they got from him, that's all still under seal. I mean, maybe we'll see the fruits of his cooperation turn up in these other active cases somewhere down the road. Or maybe we'll see the fruits of that cooperation in the Mueller report. Hold that thought.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.